Voices for Equality, part of 11 Alive's year-round Voices for Equality series.
Welcome to 11 Alive, Voices for Equality. I'm Cheryl Preheim. This month, we're focusing on an issue that impacts nearly every part of our region, the lack of affordable housing. Housing access and equity was the focus of an event honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Sunday Supper. Dr. King saw the value of bringing people from different parts of the city, walks of life, and experiences to share a meal. He believed it compelled conversations that were key to inspiring real, lasting change. For the past 9 years, Hands on Atlanta has continued Dr. King's legacy with their Sunday Supper, bringing business and community leaders together to talk about important issues and to take action.
Home is not only a place, it's the foundation for many of life's necessities and opportunities.
Access to housing is a fundamental human right, and it is connected to everything. Safe, quality, affordable housing is foundational, and it is directly tied to educational opportunities. Housing is tied to health and our wealth and beyond.
It's really where we live, we love, we learn, we teach, we fellowship, and there is nothing without home.
Yet securing a stable, affordable home is becoming increasingly difficult. The Federal Reserve in 2021 declared that not one of the 13 counties that make up Metro Atlanta qualified as affordable housing markets. In honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., community and business leaders came together over a meal to talk about the challenges and ways to solve the growing affordable housing crisis.
I've always talked about the need for affordable housing and how we have to make sure that people can live and thrive in this community.
The people in the room talked about the vision and the action required to create Dr. King's beloved community.
I would really love to see us embrace inclusionary zoning. And the reason why I say that is that we will never have enough resources to overcome creating communities that are isolated and communities that are concentrating poverty.
I'm happy to say that in 2022, we have activated more than $100 million in my very first year in office towards affordable housing already. And we're not going to slow down.
But I want you to understand that the impact is there.
Javita Wallace is the principal at Brookview Elementary School in East Point. She says the ongoing housing crisis is causing trauma for many of the kids in her school.
We can't ask kids to come to school and be ready to learn when their basic needs haven't been met. We can't think about that when they don't know if they have a place to lay their head. So when I say this is a conversation that has to happen, but it has to move beyond conversation. We have to go from conversation to action.
Action, they say, would impact some of the biggest challenges facing our city.
The crime is off the charts because we have young people who feel they have no future, nothing to live for. And if we provide opportunity for people to thrive, nobody wants to be out there, knocking people over the head. They feel hopeless and scared, and they're angry at us because we, quite frankly, haven't earned their respect.
But it's time to roll up our sleeves and get it done.
Dr. King was a vocal, longtime supporter of fair and equitable housing, and it's unashamed that his work has not come to fruition. 50 years after his assassination, there is still so much work to do. Why is this fundamental right still so far out of reach for too many Atlantans?
It is a top issue many in Atlanta have tried to tackle over the years, and an issue 11 Alive has covered extensively. But the problem does not seem to be getting any better. 11 Alive investigator Rebecca Lindstrom speaks with families trying to find affordable housing.
If you have an affordable place to live right now, count your blessings.
Thank you for calling Stride Senior Residences.
Yes, I wanted to talk to someone about my name being on the waiting list.
Sure, come right in.
For a year now, Gloria Daniel has tried to find an apartment that fits her budget, about $900 a month. While the average rent for a one-bedroom in Metro Atlanta is $1,400, some complexes get tax breaks in exchange for lower rent rates. For example, tenants at Stride can pay between $750 and $1,500. It's the same apartment, just a different price based on income. How long are you being told are these wait lists?
1 to 5 years.
Gloria is not sleeping on the streets, but she is homeless, forced to keep her stuff in storage while sleeping at a friend's house.
I'm paying almost $400, like $399. These two are both my storage.
The government defines affordable housing as rent or mortgage that costs less than 30% of your income. That means to rent that average one bedroom, you'd have to make $71,000 a year. Now, minimum wage, that's 190 hours a week, which is of course impossible because there aren't that many hours in a week.
We may have Fortune 500 relocations coming here. We may have all these new folks moving to the city, but it does us no good if the individuals that have lived here a long time still find themselves sleeping on the streets of Atlanta or in the woods or unhoused.
For years, mayors of Atlanta have declared affordable housing a top priority.
So there literally is no excuse for us not to build the housing we need.
We will continue to dedicate ourselves to creating an environment where our residents can afford to live.
The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta warned that the metro area needed 416,000 more places for people with lower incomes to live in 2019. Since then, the city of Atlanta has tracked its efforts, but so far, that's 7,000 units. Hardly enough for struggling families to notice.
This is Capitol View. This is an amazing project. This project has about 120 affordable housing units.
We met with Dr. Eloisa Clementich, the CEO of Invest Atlanta, to get a look at one affordable housing project protected by the city of Atlanta.
So no one's going to earn more than $40,000 who live in these units.
That's great, but it's only temporary. The tax breaks and low interest loans that make these deals possible are for a set period of time. For Capitol View, that's about 15 years. After that, the owner can charge anything it wants. And that means the work to find new affordable units never ends.
We live in the United States. It's a capitalist economy.
Even at the reduced rate, it is still too much for someone coming out of an encampment or homeless shelter to afford. Background checks, rental history, and credit scores are other barriers. Capitol View will take tenants on housing assistance programs like Section 8, but only if there's space. I imagine there has to be quite a bit of demand then for something like this.
There is a lot of demand for these affordable housing units.
Capitol View says it's only had 5 units available for new tenants this year.
The best way to find out is call the property owners for these properties and find out if they have any availability, and if they don't, get on the waiting list.
If that's the best way, Gloria says we need to do better.
Frustrated, disappointed. It's, I'm sorry.
She can't count the hours spent on the phone, sending emails, and visiting apartments in person for nothing.
It's been really hard. It's taken a toll. Emotionally, mentally, all of it.
More and more children are in a constant state of worry, wondering where they'll lay their heads. Many believe that concern is causing a ripple effect on every part of their lives. We look into how we can help Atlanta's youth find stability.
More and more children in the metro are facing houselessness. It's a deeply rooted issue that's causing a ripple effect on their lives. 11 Alive's Joe Ripley is speaking to one nonprofit organization that's helping Atlanta's youth get back on their feet.
So Covenant House Georgia specifically supports young people who are experiencing homelessness and escaping trafficking. We support young people ages 16 to 24. We do everything from street outreach to residential or housing support. We have a 90-day crisis shelter, transitional living, rapid rehousing. I mentioned the Pregnant and Parenting Youth Program. We also just constructed a 30-unit apartment building. So we will be housing young people to reside there for up to 2 years as well. And then all of the supportive services that it takes to wrap around and support those youth, like mental health and physical health, workforce development, financial education, recreational therapy. We have a drop-in center and day support type services, community outreach and education. There's roughly 3,300 young people who are experiencing homelessness and living on the streets in our city on any given night. So Covenant House, Georgia typically supports about a third of those young people. And we house probably about 120 youth a night, but through our drop-in center and other support services, including case management, then we typically will support about 1,200 young people a year. What we saw during the pandemic also, that there was an uptick in people experiencing homelessness, and that impacted and affected young people as well. So as people were losing their jobs and young people, as colleges were closing and young people were experiencing homelessness and moving out of the dorms and things of that sort, then Atlanta was right in with the trends across the nation where there was a 40% uptick in people experiencing homelessness. I'd say the average American is pretty close to experiencing homelessness, especially youth and the youth that we see and support here. Many of our young people, when they come to us, they're working 2 jobs, they're college students, they're high school students. It really runs the gamut. We have young people who, in our city, they just cannot afford to live in the city. Livable wages aren't in line, especially for young people to be able to afford a decent place to live, if to be able to afford a place to live at all. So we see a lot of young people who are couch surfing, so they're kind of bouncing around from friend to friend to house to house. Anywhere between 30 to 50% of the youth that we support have been in foster care. So they've experienced multiple moves, multiple trauma, complex generational poverty, just all sorts of social ills that make it very challenging for them. But when we think about that data and those statistics and thinking about the young people that we support, if I paint a picture for you of the average young person we support, it's a 19-year-old African-American or Black male who's a part of the LGBTQ community, who has been in foster care, probably aged out of foster care, and within 6 months of aging out of foster care, he's experiencing homelessness. And then within 72 hours, he's being trafficked. Being able to have stable housing is extremely important because you have to think about your physical health, your mental health being stabilized, you having a sense of security and a place of home. So some of the barriers that contribute to homelessness include generational poverty, physical and mental health. One of the big things that people oftentimes think about are, oh, these kids are runaways, they're troubled kids, they have issues with alcohol and substance abuse. And it's really sad that we have these stereotypes about these young people. People see recidivism as a failure. We see recidivism as success. That young people have connected to our organization, they believe in our mission, they trust us, they know that we're going to love them unconditionally, we are going to respect them absolutely, and we're going to relentlessly support them. Being more aware in your own family environment and really being thoughtful and non-judgmental and giving that unconditional love and support to young people in the community, because what we really want to do is prevent this from happening in the first place. People who are experiencing homelessness or they're being trafficked in our community, they hide in plain sight.
Many renters in the city of Atlanta are struggling to keep up with payments, and the cost of living continues to rise. Up next in our Voices for Equality special, we're sharing programs that could provide some relief.
party doesn't stop when you go to sleep.
That's why we're up early.
Tracking breaking news and stories from overnight.
This is still very much an active scene.
Traffic. Do yourself a favor. Atlanta Highway. Take that to Friendship Road. And weather.
Rain gear, folks. Take the umbrella with you for this morning.
Preparing you before you get out of bed.
So you can start your day a step ahead.
Watch 11 Alive Morning News, weekdays from 4:30 to 7.
The city's new objective is moving Atlanta forward, but many of Atlanta's residents are being left behind because of a lack of affordable housing. Our Joe Ripley is back looking into the way the city is trying to help families pay their rent in order to stay in their homes.
Sergeant Janine Schmidt with the Salvation Army says she's seen an increase in the request for rental assistance, with COVID still a big factor.
You can't be out 2 weeks for 4 different times and still maintain your employment. So we still have a lot of people that are being affected by COVID. The housing demand is so high right now that it's easier to move some of these people out and then increase their rental rates and get other people in.
But the city of Atlanta is offering more relief in 3 different ways. A city council resolution passed this week sets aside $500,000 to offer free legal help to people fighting evictions. It's in partnership with the Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation,
which will enable people in our hard-to-hit communities facing evictions to have free access to a lawyer to assist them through fighting the evictions process.
City Councilwoman Liliana Bakhtiari says a second resolution urges the Fulton County District Attorney's Office to crack down on negligent landlords. Though the DA's office has not responded to our request for comment, the resolution calls for more investigations into violations of the city's housing code and demands more accountability on safety standards.
You don't want to penalize people that are actually trying to get back up on their feet, but we do want to penalize the people that are holding onto these properties, sitting on them, mismanaging them, not being responsible, and feeding into more crime and more crime and health situations or health hazards.
On top of that, organizations like the Salvation Army and United Way of Greater Atlanta have millions available in federal funding to help thousands of families with rental assistance.
When you become homeless, you're more likely to be a victim of crime. You're more likely to have less access to health services.
Important options, given Atlanta had already lost nearly 10,000 affordable rental units in 5 years before the pandemic.
So how do we keep Dr. King's dream of equality and equity alive throughout Atlanta? Coming up next, what the panelists of Hands on Atlanta Sunday Supper believe we can do to be the great beacon of hope for the city. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a force that set fire to minds and hearts, compelling changes in our communities no matter where we live. In Atlanta, his birthplace, we take keeping his dream alive even more seriously. And now a dream of equity and equality is still something we're striving for. So to close, our panelists tell us what they believe is needed to make Dr. King's dream more of a reality.
Dr. King was right on point with this. When he talked about where we go from here, he was very focused on economic development. He was focused on a living wage. He was very focused on housing. And so how we go about solving this affordable housing issue is critically important. And the genius that I believe about Dr. King in terms of integration was very simple but complex at the same time. It was really about forcing us to live together so we would know each other as human beings.
I want to leave you with a call to action. We can talk about the work, but it's time to roll up our sleeves and get it done. Our babies deserve that. We have to look at programmings that stabilize communities. There's nowhere for them to play. there is nothing for them to do, and then we wonder why crime is something we see. So we have to think differently, move differently, plan accordingly.
Thank you for joining us for this month's Voices for Equality special. To learn more about affordable housing and other topics we've covered in this series, head to 11alive.com/voices.